What are some things about making money as a filmmaker that no one tells you? You find out the hard way.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing making money as a filmmaker is really, it's really how long things take, and how much work goes into things maybe after you think you're done with the hardest part, because for Hard Miles, I probably was working on the post for, 5 months after, probably in total, maybe not 100% full time, but and then you have, you have screenings, you have things like that, and even if travel's paid for and stuff, you still have to manage your time, and if you're trying to get something else going while finishing up something, from a previous project, that can make it challenging. Like the premiere, our release of Hard Miles was coming in the weeks I was supposed to finish the final aspects of post for my next movie. And so it was just like really managing, trying to juggle both of those things. And neither one of those things are things I'm being paid for, because that's done at that point. So I think that's really it, is just how long you have to go beyond, especially on an indie, the extent of time people are going to be paying you.
What advice do you have for filmmakers stuck between projects? Either can't get one off the ground, or kind of in between, just like you talked about earlier, where they're finishing up and starting something new?
Yeah. I think the best thing for people to remember is it is a marathon, not a race. And I think sometimes you have to stop and work on something else, either maybe creatively, like have like a cheat project if it's fun for you to do that, if it's fun to be writing on something that maybe you'll never make but is just fulfilling, like kind of try to keep going back to that. And then obviously it comes to work too. For me, it's like I'll edit. It was 5 years in between, I think, my first movie and Hard Miles, something like that. So it was a long time, did a lot of different editing and like some little writing stuff, but not anything that paid anything significant. It was just kind of a little novelty for me. And but it kept me in a place where I wasn't just trying to make a movie out of desperation for money, because if that's never going to work for you, I don't think, certainly not on the indie level, because you're not going to make enough money. But just creatively too, it keeps you at least feeling like you want to do something because you want to do it, because it's important to you.
Right. I would imagine a lot of people right now are in a strange situation, whether it's actors or producers, whatever. And, you'll see people talk about how they feel hopeless toward the industry. And so I think maybe that's just the one small part. Money not factoring into anything, which is a huge position to, everybody needs money for something. But,
right.
But just to feel creatively fulfilled and not have it weigh you down, that you feel angry about, like, I can't move forward in my life.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like people shouldn't be ashamed about working outside the industry or anything like that. I know some people really do, or they feel like they should only be working in their one field. But I think, I know people that have had movies that are #1 on Netflix, and they work odd jobs or do whatever. And what that really is doing is, that's sustaining them and making it so that they can be creative and have like a safe place to be creative, because they're getting their money from somewhere else. And that's like, I think that's great. I think it's something to be proud of, because you're putting, you're just focused on doing what you need to do to keep yourself in this business, in the town, if you need to live here in person, and working on what's important to you.
Right. Unfortunately, there's a huge stigma in LA, and I'm sure probably New York too. I don't know. I can't speak for it, but of having an odd job. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Then you haven't really made it. Well, that's not true. People are in between things all the time. This is a very expensive city to live in, expensive to buy food, everything, gas. So it takes a lot to make things work, and I think if we can get beyond that part. But it can also be interesting to have a part-time job that is nothing like what you want to do. Because I find myself, if I have a job where I have to sit down all the time, then I don't want to do the work that's fun for me.
No, absolutely. Like really early on, I realized, okay, I shouldn't be trying to direct commercials or trying to direct music videos or these other things, because I was realizing that it was too close, like too close, where it was its own kind of grind, that was very hard, but also was taking away my ability and my like joy for wanting to do my own projects, not because I didn't like even doing these projects, but because I was exhausting that part of my brain or energy on them when they weren't really, my project. And so I think having something completely separate from it could be great, actually.
Sure, and it's also another way to do research, even though you may not be there for that, but you're going to be coming across so many different people, I would imagine.
Sure.
That it could feed into some new project idea that you wouldn't get from just, I don't know.
No, absolutely. Good to know some real people, real people,
right.
quote unquote, that
Right.
aren't just in the business.
Yeah, like who's in that? Oh, okay, yeah, I don't want to see it or whatever, Right, real people that are like, oh, I remember them, I love them, and it is a different world, even just a few miles out of California. So, how many film festivals did you submit Hard Miles to?
I'm not totally sure. I mean, I'm trying to think of how many we played at and then how many we submitted. We probably got into maybe half that we submitted to, but we also were very kind of selective on what we submitted to and tried to submit places where we felt like it would be a good fit. So I don't know. I think if we played 10, we probably submitted to 20 or something like that. Yeah.
Was your plan to travel with the film?
I mean, well, honestly, when we set out to make this film, we didn't really think of it as like a festival movie. We really thought of it like, okay, well, it's kind of a sports movie, Even though I was always looking for trying to find the deeper thing there and make it very character-centric, we sort of had we're coming at it, looking at it through a slightly diminished lens. There wasn't anything wrong with making a sports movie, but just like this is a movie more for a mass audience, even though it's an indie, than a festival audience. But then just as we kept working on it and it kind of went the way kind of went the direction it wanted to go, I did start to feel like, okay, it's maybe not like it's not meant for Cannes or something like that, but it does have a festival indie quality to it. And so we just started, what if we submit here, what if we submit there, and we actually had a really good festival run with it.
And sure, and it's more about the relationships. We can go back to Matthew Modine's earlier work with Vision Quest. You don't have to be a wrestling fan to love the movie.
Sure.
Yeah. Which I love the film. So yeah, it's about the strength of the relationships and
definitely
all that's happening. When you were submitting to film festivals, were you also submitting to film distributors?
Yes, we basically it was made as a total indie. We had no distributors or anyone interested in the movie when we made it. It was completely on its own, and I think sometimes it was through festivals or through connections that my producers had or people they'd met. We were able to get it to several different distributors and sales agents and production companies, and there were really some back and forth where there were people that we liked their perspective, one company's perspective from this end, another company's perspective from that end. And so in the end, it was, we were kind of debating what is the path for the movie. And something we really liked about Blue Fox was when we really felt they genuinely liked the movie, and they're a company that only really works on movies that they like and believe in. And that was a good thing to think about. And also that they believed in trying to do a theatrical release, and that there was a place for this movie in theaters. And at the end, we just thought, let's go for that. Like, let's embrace that and see what we can do on that level, because that's not an opportunity that comes along all the time. And so that was really our thinking, was like, even if it's a little riskier or even if it's a little bit trickier to pull off, that's sort of the goal that everyone has and wants in the beginning, is like make a movie and get it in theaters.
Sure, and also too to have it on the big screen and you see the vastness of the rides.
Totally.
And you can feel sort of the impact.
Yeah.
And then the smallness of like being this human that's not really sure what they're doing on this bike and.
Totally. Yeah, and we felt like, you know, if people got a sense of it as a movie that belonged in theaters, then it would have its own, more of a life after too, you know, and it would just go higher, you know.
Will you ever contact distributors before you make a movie?
I mean, yeah, the movie I shot after this was completely completely different situation where for Hard Miles, it was just independently raised funds, you know, a completely independent movie. The producers, you know, and me, in terms of creatively controlled, the producers controlled it. And with my movie that I'm just now really finished, Succubus, we were working with Shout Factory, and so they are a distribution company and sales company, and so they, you know, a producer that I had met in the process of going through all this, before shooting Hard Miles even, they secured some money from them. So that was a situation where about a third of our budget maybe was coming in from a distributor, basically, that would then have the rights to distribute the movie in the way that they saw fit. And it was great to have that going in because there's a certain safety net. You feel like at least somebody's already invested in this movie enough to and was going to want to put it out there.
Do you think that's the same for an indie drama or like sort of an interpersonal narrative film, or horror is easier to secure funding?
I think anything that's genre is a lot easier. I think if it has like a thriller element or horror or something like that, it's easier to, you know, it has more of a built-in audience and it's less reliant on it just being good. You know, there's a certain, like, if you can deliver on just those aspects of the movie, you are a lot safer. Whereas in a interpersonal drama, really what it is you should see it because it's really good. Like that's the reason people see it, you know. And as much as anyone likes to think that it just will be really good, it's not. You know, there's also just circumstances and limitations and things like that can make that hard. Yeah.
How many distributors were you speaking with before you made your final decision on going with Blue Fox?
I think it was really only 3, and probably in the end really 2, you know, and Blue Fox was the most, I guess, they were, I think, the most serious about like finding something, like doing something that was like realistic, like they would make it happen. You know what I mean? Like they would make it happen versus like maybe trying to go too big or something like that, or having to like raise additional money. Like Blue Fox very much was about like knowing how to make it happen for our movie on this budget, and that was something that they had done before and specialized in, you know. And so it was sort of like a thing of just kind of arriving at what we wanted to do too, you know, what made sense for us, and should we just again go for the theatrical, even knowing it would be like a low budget, you know, P&A spend and all that kind of stuff. Like, should we just go for it? Yeah.
Is Blue Fox handling the digital side of your distribution as well?
Yes, they are. So they'll handle all the video on demand and then sales to streamer, all that kind of stuff. And they're also managing, you know, the sales of individual territories. So we're out in the UK now, like 100 screens, which is great. And they would have sold those rights or partnered with a UK company to do that. Yeah.
Are there certain countries that are very much into biking? You said the UK, so...
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of something we've been looking at and seeing, like, who's most interested in it based on that. And there's definitely a difference. Yeah. So hopefully Europe will be generally good.